When you think about really successful businesses, what comes to mind first? Is it what they sell or maybe how they actually sell it? I often find that how the business model itself, that's the real engine driving value. So today, we're doing a deep dive into that engine. We'll be using the business model canvas, the one from Alexander Osterwalder and Yves Pinnier as our guide. Our goal here is pretty straightforward. Unpack the logic of great businesses, look at their different approaches, and maybe find some paths for innovation, all by looking at their models.
Yeah, and the business model canvas, it's just so powerful because it gives you such clarity. It's basically a visual blueprint, right?
Yeah.
All on one page, laying out the 9 key pieces of any business. The real magic, I think, is getting that sort of 360-degree view without getting totally lost in the tiny details. It helps you see the whole picture, analyze it, structure things, and importantly, figure out how to evolve the business strategically.
It makes a lot of sense when you actually see it visually. You've got these core elements like customer segments, basically. Who are you actually for? And maybe who aren't you for? Then the value propositions, what unique thing are you offering them? And well, obviously revenue streams, how do you make money from it all? But what often gets missed, maybe, is how all these pieces connect, Is there one part you find businesses really struggle with when they first try this?
That's a really good point. Sometimes it's key resources or key activities, figuring out what's truly essential. But often, the most revealing struggle is actually with the value proposition. It really forces you to pin down what problem you're solving, not just what you're selling. And if you look bigger picture, successful models, they tend to share traits, things like scalability, being really customer-focused, and being adaptable. Scalability, for example, it's not just about getting bigger. It's about growing in a structured way that ideally cut your cost per unit or boost the value you get from each new customer.
Okay, let's make this real. Let's talk examples. Amazon, for instance. What's the big business model lesson from their journey?
Well, with Amazon, the genius wasn't just adding more stuff to sell. It was building this incredible self-reinforcing system, a flywheel, really. Sure, they started with books online, but the real power came when they layered on things like AWS, Amazon Web Services, super high-margin cloud stuff that actually helps fund other parts of the business. And then Prime, locking in loyalty with free shipping, streaming, all that. Each part strengthens the core e-commerce you see. It creates this loop. That's the key insight. Interconnected services amplifying each other.
That compounding effect, yeah, it's amazing. And then you've got Netflix. Talk about adapting to change.
Oh, absolutely. A masterclass. They started with DVDs in the mail, remember? But that pivot to streaming, it wasn't just about the tech changing. It showed a really deep understanding of how we were changing, how consumers behave. They used data like crazy for personalization. And then this was critical. They invested massively in their own original content that lessened their dependency on studios and built this huge competitive advantage, like a content moat around their business.
Right, and we see these kinds of dynamic models everywhere now. You've got platform businesses like Uber or Airbnb just connecting different groups of users, or subscription models, Netflix, Adobe, Spotify, giving that predictable income. And freemium too, like Dropbox, pulling you in with free stuff before you upgrade.
Which does raise a really important point. How do new companies, startups navigate all this, especially with so much uncertainty? That's where something like Eric Ries's lean startup thinking comes in. It's a fantastic complement to the business model canvas, particularly when you're starting out. It challenges a lot of the old ways.
Yeah, that Steve Blank quote always sticks with me. No business plan survives first contact with customers. It just perfectly sums up the challenge, doesn't it? So how do you balance having a vision with that lean startup cycle of build, measure, learn?
You've definitely hit on a key tension there. Look, instead of spending months on a detailed, rigid plan, lean startup is all about quick experiments. You build what's called a minimum viable product, an MVP, just enough features to get it out there, get some real feedback from early users. Then you measure how people actually use it, what works, what doesn't. You use real data. And crucially, you learn from that data. Use it to iterate quickly, tweak things, or maybe even make a bigger change. A pivot is about testing your core ideas fast, not just hoping your big plan is right.
So zooming back out, what does all this mean for businesses today? We see digital transformation, AI, cloud, changing everything. It's reshaping old models and creating brand new ones like we saw with Amazon and Netflix.
Exactly. And what's really striking is how dominant service-based models have become.
Right.
Especially subscriptions or freemium, that recurring revenue idea. They offer that nice predictable income stream, which is great. But the flip side is that predictability means you have to keep innovating. constantly. Loyalty isn't guaranteed anymore. You have to earn it pretty much every day with real improvements because switching, especially online, is often just so easy that continuous engagement is vital.
So it really boils down to this. Whether you're looking at a huge company or maybe sketching out your own new idea, understanding that blueprint, how value is really created, delivered, and captured, is just fundamental. That's the difference between just, selling a thing and actually building something sustainable and impactful.
Good. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Considering how fast these models are changing, what's one core assumption you hold maybe in your job or even a personal project that might be ready for its own build, measure, learn experiment? What could you test?